Hello, we are Group 15. Our members are myself, Evan Davison, Peter Tancini, Joseph Pugar, and Aaron Lyons. Our project was discussing developing and optimizing a method to produce styrene for bioengineered products. Styrene is an oily organic compound with a chemical formula C8H8. It can be seen here as a benzene ring bonded to a carbon, which is then double bonded to another carbon. Styrene is naturally found in meat, water, nuts, and vegetables, and it has a density of about 900 kilograms per meter cubed. When it is pure, it has a sweet and florally scent. This reaction shows the formation of styrene from ethylbenzene. Ethylbenzene is a benzene ring with an ethyl group attached to it, and this forms styrene, which is the same benzene ring, but with a double bond between the carbons and hydrogen as a byproduct. Styrene production began in 1930 by two companies independently. The first was BASF, which is in Germany, and the second was Dow Chemical, which is here in the United States. They used styrene in tires for World War II military vehicles, and styrene is the building block for many polymers, and one of the main ones is polystyrene. This is found in automobiles, paints, resins, plastics, and much more. And in 2010, the amount of styrene produced was about 25 million metric tons, and about 16% of that was produced here in the U.S. And the cost in 2010 was about $13,000 per metric ton of styrene.
In order to completely understand styrene, not only do we need to understand the basics, we need to understand the history of why it was made, and we have to understand its cost implications on us and the economy. But an additional very important thing about styrene is how it affects the environment and how the environment affects it. Thankfully, our environment decomposes and neutralizes styrene deposits given off by industries very well. Deposits of styrene can be found everywhere. It can be found in the earth, it can be found in the air, and it can be found in water. Thankfully, the earth decomposes styrene very well with microorganisms and bacteria. It doesn't take very long for styrene to be decomposed in the earth. In air, it takes about 1 or 2 days for styrene to be dispensed throughout the air, and it can no longer be detected. And in water, as soon as styrene touches it, it immediately evaporates into the air. Our earth does a very good job of neutralizing styrene, which is a very good thing. And styrene can be seen to not present a threat to our environment. Unfortunately, it presents a threat to us. As it was just discussed, styrene is no major threat to our environment. However, it is a major threat to us. It's a health hazard. Styrene can be entered into our bodies when we inhale it, consume it, or it can enter our skin dermally. Styrene in our body has been found to be a carcinogen. It's a terrible, terrible threat. Because of this terrible, terrible threat, many laws and regulations have been made to help protect us when we're around it, when we're in the same area, when we're working with it. Workers can only work an 8-hour day because they're around it too much. Bottled water can only have a certain percentage of styrene deposits in it. Very small. It's very dangerous. It's a very serious thing, and that's why productions and industries have it so hard when trying to produce styrene. The short-term effects for industry workers that get in contact with styrene include dizziness, slowed rate of reaction, central nervous system breakdown, and depression.
Hello, I'm Aaron Lyons. We're going to be going over the methods in this styrene production. First, the real reason why we want to produce styrene using a biosynthesis is in part due to oil stocks and prices. Now, another reason why biosynthesis has taken such hold is in recent success in synthetic biology and metabolic engineering. These processes actually already had success in production by companies like BioAmber and DuPont, completely excluding petroleum refinery in their styrene production. Now, in the early stages, we use things called techno-economic assessments. Now, what these do is they help bridge the gap between early production stages and product development. One major problem we're having with these techno-economic assessments is that there's often not enough information at the early stages that these techno-economic assessments need to complete. Now, one way we get around that is using tools such as Super Intelligent Pro Designer. Another tool utilized is BioPet, a biorenewables process evaluation tool. Now this is a spreadsheet-based tool, and using this, we were actually able to successfully estimate a value of 1.9 US per kilogram of 99.9% pure styrene. Now, in the testing of the biosynthesis, we convert synthesized L-phenylalanine to styrene through the deamination of tranexamic acid. Then the tranexamic acid decarboxylates to form styrene and CO2. This is a list of the chemicals either used or produced in our process. Our only starting materials are methanol and glucose, and that's good because we can actually produce these. These are renewables. Now, the phenolic acid and the trifluoric acid, these are our acidic solutions that the reaction takes place in, and everything else is either a byproduct or our major component, in this case styrene.
Hello, my name is Peter Tancini, and right now we are going to be talking about the results of the biosynthesis method. Now, the biosynthesis method was created by Professors McKenna and Nielsen at the Arizona University, and we're going to go over it real quick. So right here you can see a flowchart of how the method takes place. Now, right now I want you to focus on everything in black. We have our starting glucose, and through glycolysis with methanol, we have our L-phenylalanine, and then through the deamination, we find our tranexamic acid, and then through the decarboxylation, we get styrene. This is the generic proposed synthesis, but there are methods further we need to take a look at. First things first, how do we convert this glucose to L-phenylalanine? Now, luckily for us, there is a yeast compound called Saccharomyces cerevisiae, or S. cerevisiae for short, if you're not Latin fluent like myself. Now, this has a PAD1 gene that, when in contact with methanol, converts glucose solely to L-phenylalanine. This is very lucky for us because this process is completely renewable, and that's great for our biosynthesis method. Now, when we're talking about the deamination, we have the PAL catalyst, which my lovely colleague Aaron mentioned earlier. This catalyst, first it protonates this amine functional group, which then comes off, and we have a unprotonated decarboxylic acid group right here, which is protonated with the acidic solution. And after that, the PDC, which again my lovely colleague mentioned earlier as a catalyst, removes this carboxylic acid group, and then if you see right here, we have styrene down here, and a byproduct of CO2. Original results of the biosynthesis method yielded a very low output of styrene, so low that it couldn't be used in industry. But luckily, Professors McKenna and Nielsen were able to discover that when you added an E. coli host site, this process occurred a lot more frequently and in greater quantity. The problem is that styrene and E. coli have very similar toxicities and solubilities in octanol water. So, this E. coli has a toxicity of 300 milligrams per liter at 32 degrees Celsius, which is similar to the styrene's 320 milligrams per liter solubility at 32 degrees Celsius. What this means is that after this process took place and we had our styrene product, when we went to extract the styrene product, we were not able to extract a lot of styrene. However, up until this 320 point, we extracted 100% pure styrene. In the end results, we found that we are extracting less than 80% of the total amount of styrene produced. However, McKenna and Nielsen did more research to find methods to improve this output yield. The methods to improve styrene production by McKenna and Nielsen included solvent extraction and gas stripping. Now, solvent extraction means that Professors McKenna and Nielsen would use a different solvent instead of water to remove styrene from the reaction vessel. The three different solvents tested were N-dodecane, N-hexadecane, and bis-2-ethyl-hexyl phthalate, or BEHP for short. Now, all three of these solvents proved incredibly successful when put in this reaction vessel. In fact, the highest yield output was 98%, and all three averaged around 97.5%. Because there's such a small difference between all three, and the results varied so much that occasionally endodecane was on top, occasionally BEHP was on top, that we just conclude all three are of the same strength. The next method tested was gas stripping. Now, let's go back to our diagram. When we see styrene here, if we were to have this styrene in acidic materials, this double bond here would break, and we would go back to ethyl benzene, if you remember in the beginning of our presentation. This is not what we want. This is not styrene. So, in order to prevent this action from happening, we agitate the reaction vessel and produce styrene as a gas product off top. This is known as gas stripping. So, Professors McKenna and Nielsen varied the amount they agitated the reaction vessel, and they found an almost linear correlation between the speed at which the reaction vessel was agitated and the amount of styrene produced. In the end, we found that a maximum of 93% of the total styrene produced was able to be extracted from the reaction vessel. Now, in industry, gas stripping is a very common method of purifying products and getting a higher yield. So it is our recommendation that gas stripping be used if this biosynthesis were to go to industry standards, because you wouldn't need to synthesize any other chemicals like endodecane, N-hexane, or BEHP, and it's already commonly used.
In conclusion, because styrene is such an important building block for many polymers, and the fact that petroleum sources are dwindling very quickly, it is clear that we need to find a new method for developing styrene.
Like Evan just said, this number for petroleum per kilogram is only going to increase over the years. It is going to become so hard to find, and it is going to become so expensive that this is going to be our only option. We as a group feel like the only choice now is to invest and find new technology for this field. We feel like this is the best method for styrene moving